Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to rewire your identity to build your success? You don't even need to have a tattoo. That's the best part. It's time to wake up the Giants. Let's go. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants, and wrote a little book, A Journey of Riches. It's all about kindness. You can pick it up on Amazon. I'm here with Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. The whole reason why we're here, saw this little book about 2019-ish sitting across from Nick Smith in his office, and we knew that the world needed this book, and so we've been on a journey to get this message out to everybody that we possibly can get our hands on. So congratulations, you're here with us today. We got our hands on you. So
we're not letting go.
Nope.
You're in the
web. We're grateful that you're here. But I want Nick to go over and show you some of the things that we've created. You got to see the website and some of the programs, and I want Nick to give you a brief rundown of that real quick.
Yeah, we'll do that real quick here. If you go to my12journeys.com, you can see everything that we're up to. The podcast is here. We've got our blog. The biggest thing that we're doing right now is we're focusing in on teams and helping teams to rewrite their identity as a team. So programs are only good as the people using them. And often programs fail because the identity that's running that program isn't equipped to handle it. And so people, when they get stressed, tend to go back to their old patterns and behaviors. A couple of things on there that you can access for free for your team right now. One is the acquisition profile. So when you come into this page, you'll scroll down a little bit. You can do it from your phone or your computer. You'll get the leader's operational guide, no email required, or the acquisition profile. What that is it's like a personality test, but it's based on your conversations with ChatGPT. So you'll plug in the prompt in this profile generator, and then the PDF gets attached, and it's going to create an acquisition profile for you to tell you how you go out and get clients for your company. It's pretty phenomenal. It's really telling as far as what you prefer and what you don't prefer, without having to answer a ton of questions. So if you got your memory turned on ChatGPT and you use it pretty frequently like I do, it knows a lot about you, and then this is going to help draw out those things that are important for you so that you can actually turn those things that are playing small into giants. As always, we have Wake Up with Giants TV. We have over 350 interviews, over 900 uploads on that channel. And we have our group, the Tribe of Giants, on Facebook. We've got 4,200 members over there and growing, and we'd love to have you be a part of it. And today we're adding to the ammo, I guess, here, the content that we've got. We've got another incredible guest. Should we jump into that?
I think we shall. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So today we're diving into a conversation about what it really takes to transform your life from the inside out. This ties into what we're doing. So many people want success, but they keep repeating the same patterns, the same habits, and the same internal stories. That is why this conversation matters. So success is not just about what you build in the world. It's about who you become in the process. And our guest today is Scott Hughes, a serial entrepreneur, thankfully not a serial killer. That would be different. Who disrupted the global tattoo industry as the founder of Saniderm, permanently changing how tattoos heal around the world. Since exiting that company, Scott has turned his focus to human transformation through his platform, My Greatest Self, which we'll share that here as well, where he helps people reprogram mindset, habits, and identity using modern principles inspired by Og Mandino. So this is going to be a powerful conversation about growth, vision, and becoming your greatest self. So please help me welcome Scott Hughes to the show. We need that sound effect, like, yeah.
All right.
Crowd goes wild.
The crowd goes wild. It's good to have you here, man.
Yeah, so excited to be here with you guys.
The studio audience would be my dog.
Yeah, right. So we like to start at the foundation of who you thought you were. A lot of people that watch this show or are a part of our community have development. They have history, they have culture, family, society that all kind of design them into who they think they are. And I like to use that versus who they think they are. And I'd imagine you've got some form of that where you thought you were a person, you didn't know the impact you were going to make in the world, and you were going about living as if that was you.
Yeah.
You kind of walk us through that?
Yeah, definitely. So just growing up, I grew up, my dad was a dentist, and I was just certain that that was my path, right? I thought that's a great way to make money. That's all I knew growing up. And I remember being as young as in like third grade, being like, okay, what type of dentist makes the most money? That's the kind of dentist I want to be. And back then I came up with being an oral surgeon. So for my entire life, from third grade all the way through college, I'm like, I'm going to be an oral surgeon, right? That was my whole path. I went to college, did the pre-dental thing. I took the DAT, did really well. And then as part of the process to prepare myself to go to dental school, I decided to go and shadow an oral surgeon. Right? That's just part of the process. And so I go and I'm sitting in the room watching the oral surgery happen. And right off the bat, the oral surgeon cuts open the patient's gums, gets out a chisel and a hammer and starts whacking away the bone graft.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that the oral surgeon is like, you need to step out, because my face had gone white. I was starting to turn green. I was going to pass out.
Holy crap.
So right off the bat, I'm like, shoot, I don't think I can do this oral surgery thing. So I'd spent my whole college career doing all the anatomy, biology, physiology, chemistry classes to become a dentist, to become an oral surgeon. And then at that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. So I needed to graduate college still. And at that point, the fastest, shortest major to get out of college was Spanish. And so I switched my major to Spanish, got my Spanish degree. And then when I graduated, I was kind of lost. I'm like, what am I going to do now? Like my entire life for the past 10 years, I've been planning on being an oral surgeon. And so I just got on the job search sites and found a job handling injury claims for an insurance company in Spanish. So I started doing that, and that was fine. I enjoyed it. I was good at it. But after a few years, I realized this isn't me. I'm not a 9-to-5 type employee. I don't follow directions very well. I try to implement my own solutions. And when you're part of a big corporation, there's, the bureaucracy and all the red tape, and there's these specific systems that they had you do. And I would question these systems like, this doesn't make sense to me. Why are you having me do this on all these, different instances where it doesn't make sense? And so I started getting kind of antsy, living that life and feeling like this isn't me. This isn't where I want to be. This isn't what I want to do. But I didn't know what else to do. Like, I had never been a businessman. I had never taken any business classes. I hadn't really been exposed to that. But I decided, I'm going to start trying to figure this out, trying to figure out what else I can do. So I started reading a bunch of personal development books. And we'll talk about two of them that were the most influential for me. And the first one is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that book. And in particular, in that book, there's one concept called the mastermind.
Yeah.
Right? So I thought that's a cool idea. I'm going to create a mastermind and see if I can come up with business ideas on something else I can do. So I reached out to a few of my coworkers, some buddies from high school, said, hey, let's get together on every Wednesday night. And everyone has an assignment of showing up with one business idea. And we'll talk about it. We'll build it up. We'll tear it apart. We'll, see what works. And so we did that for a little while. And in that process, the idea of selling medical grade tattoo bandages, medical grade bandages that they were using in hospitals into the tattoo industry, that idea came up. And I thought, maybe I'll give that a try.
And that's where the evolution started.
That's
Right.
where the evolution started. So at that point, I had never been in a tattoo shop. I had never been exposed to that industry at all. But I thought this might work, and so I built a spreadsheet like you do, and started modeling out what the numbers would look
like you do.
Yeah. So I modeled it out, and I'm like, I got really excited. I'm like, if I can sell, like everyone else, if I can just get 1% of the market, I can be doing this, right?
Yeah.
So it looked really good. But again, like I said, I had never done business. I didn't have any idea how to do it. And so the manufacturer of those bandages, the inventor of those bandages was 3M. Most people are familiar with 3M, the company. They make everything from computers to Post-it notes. They're in the, Fortune top 100 companies in the world. But they're the ones that invented those bandages. They were the manufacturer of those bandages. So I called them up and said, hey, I want to be a distributor and sell these bandages into the tattoo industry. And the first thing they did is, well, let's think about it. Let's see if they said, let's see if we want to do it ourselves before we give you that opportunity. So they went back to their team, talked it over, decided they didn't want to market to the tattoo industry. So they came back to me and said, you can do it.
Wow.
And so I said, great. So we started working through a deal with them to become a distributor of their bandages. But then really quick, I realized this isn't going to work. They wanted to charge me like a $50,000 licensing fee plus the pricing they were going to give me. I'm like, there's no tattoo artist that's going to pay these prices, because they were used to selling to hospitals and doctors where they can, charge a lot more. And I'm like, this isn't going to fly in that tattoo industry. So for a minute, I thought, shoot, this isn't going to work. But then for some reason, I got the idea to look at their patent on the bandages. And if you don't know, patents are only good for 20 years, right? Utility patents.
Know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And they had invented these bandages in the early 80s. And now this was like 2009, 2010. And their patent was expired. And so I thought,
it reminds me of a story of the what was it, Starry, the drink for Coke, where that lady had a business where she was like a medium or something like that, and her name was Starry. So they sent a cease and desist, and she goes back and looks at their patent. It expired, so she bought the patent to Starry. So it's just, and then Coke had to rebrand their name. So
that's funny.
Or whatever. So, but anyway, that's pretty interesting. I also had some advice a long time ago. My dad had gone and talked to a billionaire and asked him. He said, "Hey, what advice would you give?" And he said, "Every day, if a thought comes to my mind, I write it down on a 3x5 card and I stick it in my pocket." Now, this was a little bit before cell phones and all that jazz, so you can put it in your notes now. But he put it in his pocket, he'd take it out and he'd read it and he'd think about it. And then instead of just reading it, thinking about it, if it was good, he would move forward with action. And that's kind of like your mastermind, is you come with a thought and an idea, pick it apart, think through it, and then start stepping forward. And as you start stepping forward, then there's momentum and movement and new challenges and things. So I'm just sitting here thinking about this, and just wish I was a fly on the wall during all of this, because I'm sure there's a ton like in between the little bits, the stuff that works and doesn't work, and just pretty dang cool to sit here and listen to your how it's building up, and now it's starting to crescendo. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I want to take us I want to keep going with the story, but I want to take us in a direction of dissecting that inner world,
Yeah.
So I'll have you finish this out, and then I'm gonna ask you some questions to kind of dissect, the identity, the transformation in that allowed this to come to be.
Yeah, let's go comment on what you just said, Ryan. Like, talking about action, like, I think that is one of the biggest keys to any transformation. You have to have a bias toward action. So many people just get stuck in the ideation or the thinking or the dreaming phase. And that's great, but ideas are worth nothing until there's action or execution behind them, right?
Yeah.
So like, I could have had the idea to sell bandages to tattoo shops, but until there's action and execution behind it, that nothing's going to happen.
I had a conversation with an investor the other day, and he talked about parking spaces. And he said ideas are like parking spaces, and the first person that jumps into that space is the one that's going to get it, right?
Right. That's true. And
And
if you're not moving into the parking space, someone else is going to get it.
yeah, and it's going to be an open parking space. So it's essential to take the action. I think people get stuck in the idea of who they think they are. Who am I to take the action? And so they allow themselves and their current identity to get in the way of that. So they go back to their old patterns. And are you okay if we dissect for a minute?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. So in our journeys, we talk about non-consciousness, which is all that patterning, who you think you are, the wiring, the oligodendrocytes go on, the myelination of your neurons and all of that, of who you think you are and those patterns you repeat. But then there's an awareness, right? And when people wake up to their old patterns and they're in that behavior and that no longer serves. So in your case, it would have been, I'm going down the pathway of being an oral surgeon. And then you find out that's not going to work, but you have all of this patterning that led you to that point. And then there's a rewriting of that identity. So we go through our journeys. We have number one is the non-conscious, then we go awareness. And then when people become aware, they become very self-judgmental and they go into the journey of grief, which for us is the heavy emotions, and they get depressed or they get anxious. And instead of moving forward, they get stuck in a loop right there between those three things. They get aware, they get grief, and they go back to their automations. And I think that's where change fails, is that people get stuck in that loop.
Yeah.
And the way out is like you say, through action, which is where we go into the gratitude journeys and your empowerment, your tools to help you navigate all those difficult emotions. And then we go into uncertainty, which is embracing the unknown as pure possibility, that when nothing is sure, like Margaret Drabble says, everything's possible. So you went from a complete identity. Walk us through a little bit how that transitioned from oral surgeon to I'm taking Saniderm, which you didn't even know the name at the time. I'm taking that into the world. Like, who did you have to become?
Yeah. So yeah, like I talked about, I had spent 10 years totally confident and sure that I was going to be an oral surgeon, right? I planned on getting my DMD and potentially my MD to be a oral maxillofacial and plastic surgeon. Like, I wanted to go all in, spend 8 years, 10 years in college and take that journey. But when I realized that I couldn't do that, I pivoted to being this claims adjuster for an insurance company. And that wasn't really in line with my identity. So I did that for about 3 years before, like you talked about, like kind of feeling this depression or this confusion, kind of got to the point where I'm like, I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided that I need to look for other opportunities, other options on what I can do with this. So like I said, I started reading books. I mentioned, Think and Grow Rich was one of them. Another one that was very influential was Og Mandino's The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Yeah. Great story.
And I think that one was very, very key. And I'll talk about that more in a second. But another thing I did was I reached out to a neighbor of mine who was a venture capitalist, incredibly successful. He's the venture capitalist, or one of them, behind like Skull Candy and a bunch of the big brands out of Utah here. And so I called him up. He had been my backyard neighbor growing up as a kid. So I just called him. I said, "Hey, Greg, like, I'm really thinking about doing business and being an entrepreneur. Do you have any advice? Could we talk about this?" And he was like, "Actually, I host a entrepreneur training once a year, and it's starting like in 2 weeks. You should just come to that." So I went to that, and that was also incredibly important and key in me learning about the entrepreneurial process and how to do that. And so that program was called Junto. This was back in 2011. And I went and sat through his training and learned all sorts of valuable principles. In fact, when I said biased action, that was something that he, promoted greatly during that whole training. And that was a really fun journey. That Junto program turned out to be kind of like Donald Trump's apprentice style training, where we were given tasks. We had to go raise money. We had to put on a charity event. We had to do a presentation, and we got graded on all the different activities we did. And in the end, there was about 150 people in the training. They chose the top 8 to winners from the group. And luckily I was selected as one of the winners, and I was, presenting my idea of Saniderm through that process. And so the award for winning, we didn't get any money or anything like that. The award was we got to go to Lake Powell. There were 8 of us young guys and girls who were winners. And they took us to Lake Powell with 8 other entrepreneurs who were not quite as young, but still young. They were, in their 40s or 30s, and they had all already exited businesses, were all very successful. So we got to hang out on a houseboat, on the boat, go wakeboarding with all these entrepreneurs who had done it. Yeah. And that's also really key, because who you hang out with is who you become. And so now I was hanging out with these entrepreneurs, and after that program ended, I continued meeting with the 8 winners from that program. We met every single week. We would invite our own speakers to come talk to just us 8 guys, and we would continue having masterminds and talking about our businesses. So that's just key, like, to transform who you are, transform who you're with. Right.
And what's coming in, right? So the influence of environment is a big thing. So people are more likely to change if their environment supports that. Mm-hmm. So, I look at the prison system as people come out of prison and they go back to their old environment, and they go right back to prison because their environment hasn't changed. And there were a couple of things you're doing here is that you're inputting new information through the books. So that's laying a foundation for a new identity. You're inputting advice from people that are in the area you want to move into. So that's changing your identity at a foundational level. You're associating with people in your environment that are also moving you toward that. Mm-hmm. And this is so key. It's like all these things are available to you. This goes into our journey of abundance, is that all the things you need to create anything you can imagine are already here. You just have to transform them from the state they're in to what you have in mind. And you were essentially taking all these resources, now that you're kind of clear on the direction, and transforming you so that you could bring that into the world. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's absolutely accurate.
Yeah. And
so again, you change your environment, you change your identity. Right?
Yeah.
You change the people you're hanging out with, you're going to change who you are. And I mean, I've studied this and read books and thought about it so much. And sometimes it's hard, like, who I want to be, I don't actually know those people. Like, I don't know how to insert myself into those groups.
Yeah.
One thing you do is you read books by the people that you want to be like. You read their biographies, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you can't be with the exact type of people you want to be with, you can do it, vicariously through books, through learning, through study.
Love that.
You can watch their podcast.
You just one of the yes, you can
Right.
watch the podcast. Exactly. I love that too. I mean, sometimes the people you want to be with or be like, they may not be alive anymore,
Right.
So you can go back and read their stories, read their histories, read their teachings. And that's also very transformative.
So there's another element here that you're pulling in, is the vision. When we talk about vision, it's a pre-membering of things that haven't happened yet. So you have a memory, but it's not there yet. The brain doesn't know the difference between reality, memory, and vision. And so in that imagining, all of these things that you're doing to help create that vision, anchor in the vision. And one of my mentors, Rich Lippman, says vision isn't where you're going, it's what's coming from you. And for you, it's like your spreadsheet enhanced the vision. Your conversations enhanced and anchored in the vision, right? You started seeing this thing become a reality, and you took the abundance that was. 3M developed this patent, but they let it go. And so you took that raw material and you transformed it into your patent, right?
Yeah. So once a patent expires, you can't re-patent something. It just becomes free game for anybody.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I didn't know
So
that. Yeah.
after 20 years, patents expire, and now they become free game. So I was able to take going back to that story, I took all the technical details that I'd gotten about the product in our conversations, looked for polyurethane manufacturers in China, sent them the specs and said, hey, can you guys make this?
Yeah.
And they were like, absolutely, we would love to make this for you. Here's the pricing. And I was like, I just like laughed. I'm like, that's 1/10 of what they were going to charge me. This is actually going to work.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to kind of go back, because you mentioned like my spreadsheets and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I was obsessed. Like, I looked at these spreadsheets, I edited them every day. I was thinking about them all the time. I was looking at these big numbers, like, and just so excited. I really felt it. Like, this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really question. I didn't know how it was going to work. I didn't even think about the how. I was too dumb to think about the how.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't matter.
That's a secret right there, though, Scott, is you didn't know the how. You didn't have to know the how. You didn't know the timing either, right?
No, I didn't know the how. I didn't know about patents. I didn't know about importing from China. I didn't know any of these things. You just take one step at a time.
Yeah.
All you need to see is one step at a time. And if you can't see the step, you just kind of got to imagine where the next step is. And you just try it. If it's wrong, then you pivot and go this direction, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we tell people in our training, we don't give you a map, we give you a compass, because you don't get to see that next step. And a lot of people want the map. I want to know what it's going to look like. But truthfully, if they could see every step they would have to take to make it a reality, they would be so overwhelmed. It'd be like ordering food off the Cheesecake Factory menu. Like, you're never going to do it.
Yeah. So I feel like one of the things that helped me is, like, I was too naive to not try. Like, I was too naive. I just was like, I was too dumb. Like, if I had known the whole process of what it was going to take, you're right, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Like, if I was someone who said, oh, if you're going to start this company, you need to go and research patents. You need to find manufacturers in China. You need to learn how to import. You need to learn how to build a website. You need to learn how to, I'm like, I'd never done any of that.
And all the failures too. If you had to see all your failures in advance, all the pathways that wouldn't work that you'd have to take to find the ones that did, you'd be like, this is mostly not worth it. Right.
Right.
And, but it's a law of nature, is that we're meant to fail more than we succeed, but the successes, far outweigh the failures. But it seems like the world is engineered around failure because we learn from it. We grow from it. And go ahead.
For me, I mean, failure doesn't exist. Like, it's just part of the learning process. You don't fail until you quit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As long as you're still in it, you're still going, no one can say that you failed yet. Right.
Let's talk about germination and surrender in this. A lot of people use the analogy of the bamboo tree, and they're like, it's so amazing. We're going to use this in personal development because it sounds so cool. You grow underground for 3 to 5 years, and then you blow up in a few weeks. You're hundreds of feet taller. Your business is a success. And there are other people that they spend their entire life germinating, right? And for some people, they don't even see the success in their lifetime, but their success, even after their death, is bigger than most humans will ever be. And so Victor Van Gogh, Van Gogh, right? Emily Dickinson never saw the fruits of their labors in their lifetime. So how do you keep going when you don't know the time frame? You don't know what the next steps are going to be. You don't know what's going to work. Like, what is your secret to surrender?
So I think that comes down to just having the vision, right? Like, when I started Saniderm, it was very slow. Like, if a typical businessman would have seen what I was doing and been like, this isn't working. This is taking too slow. But again, I was too dumb to realize that it was right.
So essentially, be dumb enough to keep going, right?
You just got to be naive and just keep going. You don't have to think so hard about it.
Yeah.
Like, so when I got my first bandages from China, I didn't have any money. Like, I was a poor kid doing, an entry-level insurance job, but I had a few $1,000s that I could buy like half a pallet worth of these bandages. I didn't know I should build a website. I didn't think about designing a logo or, designing boxes even for my bandages. I literally got the bandages, no boxes, no packaging. I put them in a Walmart bag and walked into a tattoo shop. I put on long sleeves and long pants because I didn't have any tattoos. It was summer, but I still wore long pants and long sleeves.
You buy one of those fake sleeves on Amazon that looks like,
I thought about that. I thought about that, but no, I just wore long pants, long sleeves, walked into a tattoo shop. I was scared to freaking death too, because I'd never been in a tattoo shop before. I've been kind of raised in this Utah bubble, and thought that, I don't know, I was really scared. But yeah, I walked in, and luckily I had done, pre-med, pre-dental classes. I knew all the physiology and chemistry and science of healing and skin. And so I could talk the talk about the healing and about the bandages. And it started working. People here in Salt Lake, there were about 80 tattoo shops in the Salt Lake Valley at that time. I went to every one of them.
Yeah.
Driving around in my old minivan with Walmart bags, right?
People need to hear this though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't have to have a company car. I didn't have to have boxes. Yeah. I literally worked my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And at 5 p.m. I would leave and go do my sales.
Yeah.
Which worked out great because tattoo shops are open late. So I could be out knocking doors late. And they didn't care. Right.
So, well, your medical knowledge didn't go away either.
No.
So even though your old identity was no longer relevant, it still was, in a way.
It became very relevant. And I think that was one of the biggest keys to making that company successful is I was able to educate the tattoo industry. Like, to become a tattoo artist, you don't actually need any training. Like, all you need is a business license, and some states require a bloodborne pathogens certificate, which costs like $10 and takes, maybe an hour to complete.
Yeah.
But you don't even need to be a good artist. You can just say, I'm a tattoo artist.
Man,
so
you educated them.
So to be able to walk in and educate them, like, this is the skin, these are the layers of the skin, this is how it works, this is, the proliferation phase of healing, this is, go through and explain all of this. And it gave some credibility. And that was really key in helping educate and change that industry. And that's eventually what happened. So after, selling my bandages here in Utah, I just had, like $1,000 coming in a month or something. I would just get text messages or phone calls from the tattoo artists when they needed more product, and I would go drive it to them and drop it off and hang out for a minute.
Yeah.
But after that, I was like, I'm going to see if I can make this bigger. I guess I should go and get a logo designed. I should, get an official name for my company. I should,
maybe different bags.
Yeah. So
Walmart's like, why does he take like 13 bags every time he gets a gallon of milk?
Takes the whole stack.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, then I went and had a website built. And I did borrow about $10,000 from a buddy to make another order for inventory and to build a website and such. And once I had the website built, had a logo designed, had packaging designed, I got on Google and just started making my own spreadsheet. I think I started in Albuquerque and listed all the tattoo shops, just made a spreadsheet from Google, like tattoo artists in Albuquerque, and just went down the list, made a list, and started making phone calls.
Wow.
I was like, why Albuquerque? But then I'm like, alphabetical order.
I
was like, was that like the tattoo capital of the world? Oh,
no,
Albuquerque.
No, me, I was like,
just the first one, first A.
I felt like Albuquerque was a safe place to start. Like, I was like, I don't want to start in LA. LA is scary. New York's scary. Albuquerque is safe.
Seems
hard
good.
to fail in Albuquerque.
If I mess up on Albuquerque, it's not that bad. I can try again in a different city. But if I mess up in LA, I thought that would be catastrophic. So let's start with Albuquerque.
Which is smart though, Scott. I mean,
I don't know. That was my thinking, right?
But it still is like the idea of getting small wins and starting with one step and one win and one action. Our journey of nurture talks about that. You don't have to go kill the world and just succeed right out of the gate, but you do want to create wins. And sometimes those small wins start to stack up and you start to see, okay, this is going somewhere, which inspires you and gives you hope to do more. Otherwise we lose hope and we, quit. Like you say, that's when we fail. And we look at this as like, we had no idea what the steps were going to be. We've been stepping into the dark, for over 5 years now, for me about 15 years, and still going. And the timing isn't like the bamboo. It's like, man, this is taking longer than I thought it would, but we're still going. It's that grit. There's some great books on grit and the importance of it, that persistence of sticking with it. I'd imagine that making those phone calls wasn't the easiest thing for you, that
Oh,
the guts were going.
yeah, I've typically been a very shy person. Like,
Yeah.
I've never been one to engage in a lot of conversation. I enjoy being on stage. Like, I was a cheerleader, so I was up in front of people. I was in student government up on the stage, and I loved that. But making phone calls and stuff, I always hated it.
Huh.
Like, when I had to start calling, I say I had to. I guess I chose to. I felt like I had to because I wanted to build this business so badly that I was going to do things that were scary to me. But
like
calling tattoo shops was really hard, but it worked out.
So how did Albuquerque go? You got us on the edge of our seats about Albuquerque.
It went well. I still remember the very first sale I got was to a gentleman named Rune Odinson.
So that sounds very Nordic. This guy was
I'm sure that wasn't a real name. I'm sure that was like an artist name.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe it was a real name. But anyways, I remember getting that sale. So my strategy was I was just going to call them up the tattoo shops and be like, hey, if I send you a free sample, will you try it out? And they all say yes. And so I would go and cut out little pieces of bandages out of my rolls, put them in a little envelope, a little card, and mail those out. And then a few days later, I'd call and be like, hey, did you use that product? And almost every time they'd say, no, not yet. I'm like, okay, well, use it on your next client. And then I'm going to call you in a few days and see how it went.
Yeah.
And
dude, I could picture you, your tongue sticking out. You got the bandages in one hand, scissors, you're like cutting it out, handwriting these messages. Like,
yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I would be packaging up those samples every night, mailing those out. And I like we talked about, this was actually a pretty slow process. So for the first 3 years, I kept my 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, that's important to hear, right?
Yeah,
you did what you had to do.
That's why I say if a typical like venture capitalist or business person had seen what I was doing, they were probably like, this is really dumb. This isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? I think my first year, it wasn't a full year, but I think I had like $19,000 in sales. That's not very exciting to many people, but for me, that was fantastic. Right. I was too dumb to know that wasn't very much money. Right.
But that was the blessing right there, is being dumb enough to not know, because ultimately it led to the buyout of your company.
Yeah.
And I want to hit on this a little bit, is you accomplished your vision and you sold your company. And
those spreadsheets I made in the beginning, that is exactly what my business looked like when I sold it.
That's impressive.
Here's
my question.
That $19,000 I did the first year, that's what I would do in half a day. When I got done.
Yeah, that's amazing. So the vision held. You never let go of the vision. You let go of how it would come about. You didn't have to control every step, but you knew that if there was an action to be taken, even if it was uncomfortable, you still took the action, even if it was a small step, right?
Yeah.
So after, go ahead.
It's a bias action. I'll just stress that again. You just take a step. You just figure it out, and you ask questions. Like I went to that training with Greg, the Junto program.
Yeah.
I didn't, I reached out. I just researched, different options for getting help with a business, and I think they're still around. There's one called the Small Business Development Center. I think that's still around. So I would go to Salt Lake City Community College here in Sandy campus. They had you could like walk in and there would be offices with retired entrepreneurs. You can go sit down and talk to them. Remember, I talked to a gentleman named Mark, who luckily he had done importing from China, And he's like, this is how you do it. I'm like, oh,
That's amazing.
perfect. So you just got to ask the right questions. And if the person doesn't have the answer, you ask somebody else.
Yeah. There's that book, The Who Not How, right?
Yeah.
And essentially that's what you're doing is you didn't know how. So
Yep.
you're out there asking the people that do know how.
Yep.
And building friendships there. So I want to take us on a direction here, and we'll pull in whatever you want to pull in here.
Yeah. Okay.
But post-success, right? Post-success depression. We had a show on that a little while back. I had a friend that built up a huge YouTube channel, 12 million subscribers. That was his vision. He accomplished it. And then afterward got really depressed. He'd reached his goal, but he had no more purpose, right?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about like the stages of growing and the depression and whatnot, because there was some depression, there was some frustration doing my claims adjuster job. Right, I knew this was not in line with my identity. Right, yeah. I wasn't being fulfilled. My ideas weren't valued, and so that discomfort, that depression, we'll call it, that anxiety led to taking the steps to build Saniderm. While I was building Saniderm, there was another kind of phase of depression and anxiety I'm going to talk about. And so this was now about 2018. So I've been running the company for 6 or 7 years, 8 years. And it was successful. Right. I had employees. I had moved out of my basement. I had a warehouse. I had an office. I had, distributors all over the world. But what happened was I had spent those first several years making my company my identity. And when I started hiring a sales team, and I hired a marketing team, and I hired the social media team, and all of a sudden I was giving away my identity.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
And so that was actually a really, really hard thing for me to go through. Like, I'm giving my identity to these employees, and they're doing better than I was because they're specialized in these things. They've been trained in these things. And I was grateful to have them. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know what to do with my life.
Right.
And so that was kind of a process to overcome those feelings of, who am I? Right. But then to answer your question, like post exit, post success.
Yeah. Yeah. Put quotes on that.
I was very intentional about deciding to move on. Right. Things in my life had changed. I had, gone through a divorce, and I have 2 daughters. My oldest daughter was just about to turn 18. And I really wanted to focus some time with her before she moved out and went to college. So I decided I'm going to sell. We're going to travel. We're going to have some great experiences. We're going to get a new boat. We're going to go boating all the time. So we did that. And that was fantastic. That was a great choice. I don't regret that one bit.
Yeah.
But then she goes, back to school. My daughters go back to school. Now I don't have a business. And yeah, you're right. I did start feeling a little bit, oh shoot, now what am I going to do? There's no purpose. There's no fulfillment.
Yeah.
And so that's when I decided, all right, it's time to turn to the next business. And so that's where I'm at now. We're in the process of building the next business.
This is cool because I've got that, I'll scroll it across the bottom of, the screen. But I think this is important for people to hear is like when you accomplish a dream or a vision or an identity, then there can be a loss of identity in reaching your goals and visions. And when we look at depression in our program, we look at it as something that has you resign from what's going on, see reality as it is, have a reverence or respect for it, and then re-engage in a new, more powerful way, which is called resilience, your ability. And it's more than resilience. I love what Nassim Nicholas Taleb talks about as anti-fragility. Now you're going to grow in a new direction. But people get stuck in that depressive state where it's not reverence and respect for what is, it's a rumination and a degrading of who they are because they are where they are. And so they get stuck in a loop there where they're not now engaging in a new, more powerful way. They're just reminiscing and ruminating over what was or what should be that didn't happen, the injustice of it, or whatever. And how do you overcome that in your world? What is your philosophy for getting yourself to step, right?
So again, it's just building the habit, that bias toward action. I know I've said that several times, right? You just got to take the step. You got to make the action.
Yeah.
And you got to build that habit. And I know I mentioned in the beginning, and we're probably going to talk about this a little bit. You've got scrolling across the screen right there. Yeah. One of the things that helped me build habits and really transform my identity was that book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, by Og Mandino. And you said you're familiar with that. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, Ryan.
Yeah.
But if for anyone who's not familiar with that book, it's actually a fiction book, where it tells the story of a man back in the Middle East who wants to improve his life from being a lowly shepherd into being a wealthy caravan owner. So he joins the team of a wealthy caravan owner and eventually works his way and gets to know this wealthy caravan owner. And the owner gives him a set of scrolls and says, this is the secret to becoming and changing yourself and becoming successful. And there's 10 scrolls, and in the scrolls, it guides you to read each scroll 3 times a day for 30 days, with the idea of encoding habits and transforming identity and changing your thoughts. And so each scroll focuses on a different topic. The first one is about habit itself and developing the habit of reading the scrolls. And then it goes through love and persistence and self-esteem, presence, and whatnot. And so that was one of the books that I actually read when I was starting this whole journey. And I followed the system that's outlined in the book by reading those scrolls. And so, and one of the scrolls is action. So I do think that was also very key in changing who I was, having a very deliberate practice of changing the mind, changing your thoughts, changing your habits.
Yeah, because you've been through the process before, now when you step back in, you know what to expect. You know what it's going to take, what it could take anyway.
Right.
I'm going to pull this up here so people can see it. Tell us a little bit about this program and what your vision is with it.
Yeah. So when I did this program the first time, like doing my greatest or the greatest salesman in the world, I felt it was very transformative. I loved the process. I loved going through the scrolls. I felt the changes in me as I was doing that program as prescribed by the author Og Mandino. But after I did it, I continued studying, affirmations and psychology. I did some NLP or some neuro-linguistic programming courses. And I realized that the scrolls that were in the book, while they're beautiful and everything they were written in 1968, long before neuro-linguistic programming existed, long before positive psychology had taken, great steps forward, long before they had done real studies and science around affirmations.
Yeah.
And so I actually rewrote the scrolls myself and changed all the negative language, changed a lot of the phrasing in them, changed it from, past or future tense to all present tense. And I did those scrolls myself just from what I had rewritten. And so now fast forward to this year, I thought, I want to make this into a real app and a real program. And why limit it to just these 10 scrolls that were originally in the book? And so I built this app called My Greatest Self, where I've taken that framing from The Greatest Salesman in the World and made it more universal, rather than focus on sales. It just focuses on becoming your greatest self. I picked the different characteristics that you can create habits around.
Yeah.
Starting with the original 10 that Og Mandino did, and then I've expanded it to include authenticity, integrity, confidence, courage, and the different things that weren't included in the original 10. So anybody who wants to really change the way their thoughts are happening every day, change their identity, this is a system to do it. So rather than just single line affirmations like we're all familiar with, a scroll affirmation is actually a full page. It's about 500 words. It takes, 3 or 4 minutes to read it. And spending that much time and that much thought on a particular characteristic 3 times a day, that's how you're really going to recode or change your brain. Yeah, it's great to say a single phrase in the mirror every day, but to really encode change, I've created these scrolls that are deep, they're emotional, they're intentional. They've got beautiful language that sticks with you all day long so that you can really change the way you're thinking around these different characteristics.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's really rewriting from the inside out. And, to go from one success to another program, there's no guarantee of success.
Mm-hmm.
And success is, when I say that, my definition is from the dictionary here is that a positive yield from your efforts versus a negative yield from your efforts. That's all we're looking at. And so we look at impact. What is the ripple you're trying to make in the world? What impact are you hoping to make in the lives of others through all of this, through Saniderm and what you created there to this? Who do you see yourself as when it comes to impacting the world? What do you hope to leave as a legacy?
There's so many opportunities to leave an impact. With Saniderm, what did I do? I brought new products to the tattoo industry. I did essentially change the way tattoos are healed around the world. Before Saniderm, people were using saran wrap and masking tape.
Yeah.
And now they're using medical grade bandages.
Amazing.
Right.
I'm
building another company called Upsell IQ. That's my main focus right now. It's another company around service providers like tattoo artists. Don't need to go into that in a great detail right now, but this other program, My Greatest Self, that's just something I thought of. I've been wanting to do it for a very long time.
Yeah.
And now that I have the time and whatnot and the tools available to build it, I originally started building it for myself. Like, I want to be able to do these scrolls. I want to be able to do these affirmations and add more characteristics. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to make it into an app. And if anybody else finds it useful and downloads it, great. But if I'm the only one using it, I'm getting benefits out of it, and I'm happy.
Then it's worth it, right?
Now, I literally am the only person using it. This is my first time ever even talking about it.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
So
that's cool.
I've been building it over the last few weeks. I've been using the app itself for about 6 weeks now.
Okay.
So I'm only into it my second scroll so far.
Yeah, that's cool, Scott. It's really cool.
I feel like we got the exclusive. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is
breaking news here.
The grand unveiling. Check it out, mygreatestself.com.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Instagram, My Greatest Self on Instagram too.
Is there anything, so we're kind of toward the end of the show here, but as you reflect on our conversation today, is there a nudge to share anything that you haven't shared today? Anything you'd want to say to the person across the screen?
I would say just start acting, start believing in yourself. You can figure it out. Just don't think about it too hard. Just take the steps, right? Thoughts get in the way. Just take the steps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I'll say this about these scrolls is by actually changing your thoughts and changing your habits, you're not thinking. It becomes habitual, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's repeated actions become habits. And you have to think about it at first, but eventually it does become habitual. It does change who you are.
Right.
But you have to be intentional about it. You have to really focus on it until it becomes a habit.
So here's the elephant in the room, right? So the elephant is the 11 million bits of information that our non-conscious mind processes every second.
Yes.
Versus the 50 that we consciously process. And that 50 is enough to drive the elephant. It's like the rider on the elephant. But that 50 bits of information every second that we can pay attention to ultimately becomes the elephant. It allows us to bring into the world those visions that we have if we'll just give that attention to that small amount. And you're up against a behemoth, 10,999,950 bits versus 50
Yep.
is overwhelming odds.
It
But
is
that
overwhelming. That's the key to habit. When it's habit,
right?
you no longer have to dedicate those bits of information to that habit because it's happening subconsciously. It's happening automatically.
Yeah. See, that's powerful. Powerful.
Absolutely.
And anything else you want to share?
I don't know. I've just seen a couple of questions. People ask, do I have any tattoos now?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten any tattoos yet. There's a question right there. You've since got a tattoo.
He's
No.
got Saniderm across his lower back. I would.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I've talked about it. I've had so many tattoo artists offer to give me my first tattoo, and
yeah,
I haven't done it. I'm not opposed. So
then they want to know about the rocks behind you.
So I am a massive rock collector. So these are just a few of my small ones right here. We've got tangerine quartz, stibnite, celestite, and this is a dog's tooth calcite over here.
Oh, that's cool.
You can see the rest of my camera up. There's a few more right
there you
here.
Go.
Very cool.
Yeah. Beautiful piece of kyanite right here, citrine. This is a big piece of tourmaline over here. And this one is phantom selenite, which is only found here in Utah.
Really? It's amazing how many rocks there are in Utah, different kinds, for rock hounding. Pretty cool stuff. That's awesome.
So yeah, that's
I got a rock guy because I have this weird, I don't know rocks that well, but I have this weird fascination with rocks. It's, drives my kids crazy.
I love decorating with rocks. I think they're just beautiful, and they're just a fun way to decorate. I wear rocks, bracelets every day. I've got like 70 different bracelets I choose from every day.
Yeah.
I used to be really into like the metaphysical properties of the rocks.
Yeah.
But I don't get into that as much anymore. I just think they're beautiful.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'll be like walking along the river, just staring down, and people are like, "What's wrong with that guy? Is he lost?"
Right.
Looking for rocks.
Ryan, what are your thoughts as you listen to the show today? What are you taking away or realizing?
What I love is like Scott was selling insurance, and
I wasn't even selling insurance. I was just handling the claims.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, but it's just nothing like, it's not that glamorous, and he's not like crushing it, financially,
in Spanish.
Yeah, right.
¿Cómo está? ¿Dónde está el baño?
Yeah, which is funny because me and Nick were texting each other in Spanish before the very basic words because I don't speak Spanish as much. But I was sitting here thinking about how interesting it is when you sit, like the average person could sit at home. I say the average, just sitting at home and thinking, well, of course they could do this, or he could do that, or this person, or whatever. You were the average guy. You're just just living life and then going, hey, there's got to be something different. There's got to be something more. How do I do this? You didn't even know how to do it, and thought, hey, we'll just think of some ideas, and started building some spreadsheets, and just one step in front of the other. And I loved what you said, have a bias toward action. And there is some sort of magic that happens as you start stepping forward into the unknown, and the ethereal becomes tangible. I don't know if it's the universe, God, angels. There's some weird alchemy that goes on that we don't see as you step forward and as you start putting action behind it. That energy
I like
becomes
that for the alchemy of just taking the next step forward.
Yeah.
Something happens.
And so just sitting here thinking about that and going, okay, where do I want to start taking more action? And I have some ideas and some thoughts of where I'm taking more action. But as I do it, I've seen the same types of things. This stuff starts to grow as you start stepping forward. You might be the one that's growing, the results might just be right here. They might not be in some Saniderm or, something else, but you might just get that personal growth that then prepares you
say this,
for.
If that change happens here, it will eventually manifest itself outside.
Exactly. Thank you for finishing that thought for me, because that was exactly what I was going to say. It's preparing you. Something is happening. You might not just be able to see all of it yet. And even for you, Saniderm happened. You sold your company, and now more things are coming, and you are that much more prepared to handle anything that comes into your life. So, my hat's off to you. I have the same haircut as Nick, so we give you our nod. But thank you so much, Scott, for pouring good into the world. You and your stepping forwardness created a product that's needed and healing in the world, and for tattoos, right? Tattoo artists, and for the people getting those tattoos, it created a massive ripple, and you're continuing that massive ripple with your My Greatest Self and the other things that you're doing. So thanks so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you on the show. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you. For those that are watching, we want you to come see Scott's video. If you want to rewatch it, come to YouTube and check out the channel. You probably know somebody that could use this video today. So we ask that you share it with them, tell them why they should watch it. It's a great journey. And it really is as simple as take that step, just one step. We always say giants still take small steps. They're just bigger, and so everybody's taking steps, and that's the key into embracing the uncertainty, the unknown, which a lot of us are afraid of. We'd rather stay in the uncomfortable certainty than move into the the discomfort of not knowing. But that not knowing is the key to success. And so, Scott, it's been a pleasure talking with you. It's quite the journey. I know we could go on for hours about all the philosophies because there's a lot more in there.
There's a lot, and there's a lot of really fun stories that happen in the tattoo industry, building this business.
So maybe we'll have you back on for another show, and we'll dive in. For those that are watching, go to mygreatestself.com and check out the program. And we appreciate you. Come join us at the Tribe of Giants. Go make it a giant day, and we will see you in the next video.
Awesome.
Love you too.